Competing through operations. Welcome back to Operations Management. This is Week 2, Lecture 2. Last time we built the strategic foundation: mission, competitiveness, order winners, and order qualifiers. Today, we go one level deeper. The question is simple. How do real firms use operations as a competitive weapon? Here is our roadmap. First, Heiser's 3 strategies for competitive advantage. Second, Porter's 5 forces, and what each force means for an operations manager. Third, the importance performance matrix from Slack, with 2 worked examples, then the product life cycle. And finally, the balanced scorecard. Your readings are Heiser Chapter 2, Stevenson Chapter 2, and Slack Chapter 3. Keep those nearby, but you do not need them open right now. Let's begin. 3 strategies for competitive advantage. So how does a firm actually compete? Heiser says there are 3 fundamental answers. Look at the 3 paths on screen. The first is differentiation. You compete on uniqueness. Apple does not win on price. It wins because customers believe the product is genuinely different, and they pay a premium for that. The second is cost leadership. You compete on lowest delivered cost. Walmart's cross-docking, vendor-managed inventory, and huge distribution centers all exist for one purpose: be cheaper than everyone else. The third is response. You compete on speed, flexibility, and reliability. Zara moves from design concept to store shelf in about 2 weeks. That is not marketing, that is operations. Here is the critical point. You cannot be all 3 at once. Trying is called being stuck in the middle, and it leads to mediocrity. Pick your lane. How strategy shapes operations decisions. Once you have picked a lane, everything else has to follow. This table is the heart of today's lecture, so look at it carefully. Down the left side are 5 major operations decisions: capacity, inventory, quality, workforce, and technology. Across the top are the 3 strategies. Read any row across, and you see the same decision answered 3 different ways. Take capacity. A differentiator like BMW keeps excess capacity so it can customize. A cost leader like Toyota runs at high utilization with lean staffing. A responsive firm like FedEx holds surge capacity for peak periods. Now read inventory the same way. Low and build to order versus high volume standard items versus buffer stock for speed. Here is why it matters. If you are a cost leader building excess capacity for customization, you are burning money. If you are a differentiator cutting quality to save cost, you are destroying your own position. Alignment is not optional, it is the job. Porter's 5 forces. Strategy alignment is internal. Now let's look outward, at the environment you compete in. Michael Porter's 5 forces is one of the most widely used tools in business. Look at the diagram. 5 arrows press in on the center. The threat of new entrants, the threat of substitutes, supplier power, buyer power, and rivalry among existing competitors. Together, they determine how intense competition is in an industry. Now read the operations implications listed beside each force. If supplier power is high, you diversify your supply base and build long-term partnerships. That is an operations decision. If substitutes threaten you, you innovate continuously, which demands flexible operations. If buyer power is high, you build loyalty through quality, service, and customization. Porter tells you where the pressure is coming from. Your operations strategy is how you push back. 5 forces applied. NYC. Food delivery frameworks make more sense with a real industry, so let's apply it to one you know. Food delivery in New York City. The photo shows the whole business model in one frame. A cyclist, a phone, a city street. Now walk down the 5 ratings. New entrants high. Almost any startup can build an app, and ghost kitchens lower the barrier for restaurants too. Substitutes high. Cooking at home, meal kits, and grocery delivery all compete for the same meal. Supplier power, medium. Restaurants can leave a platform, but the big platforms have volume leverage. Buyer power, high. A customer will switch apps for a $2 promo code. Switching cost is basically zero. Rivalry, very high. 4 major platforms fight for the same customers with nearly identical offerings. So what does that mean? In a market like this, the app is a commodity. Delivery speed, order accuracy, and driver retention are the real differentiators. Execution wins. The importance performance matrix. Porter tells you where the pressure is. This next tool tells you what to fix first. Slack's importance performance matrix may be the most practical thing in this course. The idea is simple. Plot every competitive factor on 2 dimensions. How important is it to your customers? And how well do you perform compared with competitors? That gives you the 4 zones on screen. Top area, appropriate. High importance, good performance. Maintain it but do not overinvest. Urgent action. High importance, poor performance. This is your fire. Fix it now. Improve. Low importance, poor performance. Address it when resources allow, and excess. Low importance, high performance. Ask honestly whether you are wasting money there. The power of this matrix is that it forces prioritization. You cannot improve everything at once. This tells you where to start. Solved example 1. Let's put the matrix to work on a real scenario. Brooklyn Care. Urgent Care surveyed its patients and benchmarked against 2 competing clinics. Every factor is rated 1 to 9. Look at the table column by column. Importance to patients are performance, competitor average, and then the resulting zone. Start with wait time. Importance 8, performance 4, competitors at 6. High importance, weak performance behind the competition. That is urgent action. Billing transparency tells the same story. Importance 8, performance 3. Urgent action again. Now clinical quality. Importance 9, performance 8 above competitors. That is appropriate. Maintain it, do not overinvest. And look at the last row. Waiting room comfort. Importance only 2, but performance 8. That is the excess zone. The clinic is spending on something patients barely care about, so the prescription is clear. Fix wait times and billing first. Redirect the waiting room budget into process improvements that patients actually feel. Solved example 2. Now a second example from a very different industry, so you can see the method transfer. Brooklyn Made is an online artisan home goods retailer, competing against Etsy, Amazon Handmade, and local boutiques. Its stated strategy is differentiation through quality and uniqueness. Scan the table the same way. Product uniqueness scores importance 9, performance 8, above the competitor average. That is appropriate and it matches the strategy. But now look at delivery speed. Importance 7, performance 5, competitors at 7, urgent action. Returns and refund ease. Importance 8, performance 4, urgent action again. Meanwhile, photography scores 9 and packaging scores 8. On factors, customers rate only middling in importance. Both set in excess. So the recommendation writes itself. Stop upgrading photography and premium packaging. Move that budget into faster fulfillment and a simpler returns process. That is the matrix doing its job, making the investment decision obvious. The balanced scorecard. We have decided where to invest. Now, how do we know it is working? Stevenson introduces the balanced scorecard, developed by Kaplan and Norton. Look at the 4 quadrants in the diagram and read the 5 points beside it. The core insight is point 1. Financial metrics alone are lagging indicators. They tell you what happened last quarter, not why, and not what is coming. So the scorecard adds 3 more perspectives. Customer metrics connect operations performance to market outcomes. Internal process metrics are where operations managers live. Cycle time, defect rate, on-time delivery. Learning and growth metrics make sure the operation can keep improving. Point 5 is the one to remember. Together, the 4 perspectives stop a manager from hitting this quarter's number at the expense of long-term health. Improving a process only matters if it reaches the customer, and eventually the financials. Product life cycle and operation strategy. One more idea before we close, and it changes everything we have said so far. The right operation strategy does not stay still. Look at the photo. Phones evolving from oversized antennas to flip phones to modern touchscreens. Same product category, completely different production reality at each stage. Heiser maps this to 4 phases. In introduction, operations must be flexible. Volume is low, cost is high, designs change constantly. Think of the first electric vehicles. In growth, the focus shifts to capacity. You scale fast before competitors catch up. That was the Tesla Model 3. In maturity, cost efficiency rules. Design is stable, volume is high, and you compete on price and reliability. The Toyota Camry lives here. In decline, you rationalize. Reduce capacity, minimize investment, and decide whether to exit. Traditional gasoline sedans are entering that phase. Same firm, same skills, 4 very different operation strategies. Key takeaways. Let's pull the whole lecture together. 5 takeaways. 1. Choose one of Heiser's 3 strategies: differentiation, cost leadership, or response, and align every operations decision to it. Being stuck in the middle is not a strategy. 2. Porter's 5 forces shows you where competitive pressure comes from. Your operations strategy is the response. 3. The importance performance matrix is your prioritization tool. Fix urgent action zones first and question the excess zones. 4. The balanced scorecard keeps you honest. Financial results follow operational excellence, not the other way around. 5. Operation strategy must evolve across the product life cycle. What works in introduction will hurt you in maturity. Take a moment with these 5 before you move on. In Lecture 3, we take all of this global supply chains, sourcing decisions, and operating across borders. See you there.